Hi, John. It's a pleasure to have you here in our BARC headquarters. And today we will discuss everything around ESG reporting. But first off, before you are introducing yourself and Capventis, I need to introduce myself. I'm a data and analytics consultant here at BARC, and I'm covering everything around ESG reporting and software, and of course also technology. But the focus is not on BARC today. It's on you and your approach for ESG reporting coming from Capventis. So, John, tell us a little bit more about you and Capventis.
It's great to be here, Chris, and thank you very much for having me here in your beautiful historic city of Würzburg. I'm here from Capventis. I was the founder of Capventis for 25 years ago, so we're a quarter of a century working with our customers and clients to help them, I suppose we say, getting more or better value from the strategic use of their data and ideas. So that's our mission statement. From a point of view of analytics, we see that as being part of a mix of operations and analytics. So we think it's important to integrate the two. We've been working throughout Europe for 25 years with every sector, every industry, multiple countries. It's been a really interesting journey for us, and delighted that we're here today to share some of that experience.
Thanks for your short introduction, and actually interesting because also BARC is active since 25 years right now.
Okay.
So we do have something in common here. But with that long history, so there must be a lot of customers you helped over the last 25 years, right?
Absolutely, and some of them we have for over 10 years, 12 years, some of our customers, which is great to have a long-term relationship working with them. So we feel and we need, it's important that we're working with our customers alongside them. It's not us bringing a solution, it's us helping our customer to design the right solution for themselves and then taking that to technology.
All right. When did you have first touch points with customers and clients regarding ESG reporting and sustainability initiatives then?
Well, it's interesting because we came across this over 5 years ago when, especially in London, where the financial services industry has become very focused on words like ESG and measures like ESG, especially in the investment community, that decisions people have or businesses have to invest may well be conditional on good ESG performance, whatever that means.
Okay, but basically you're coming from a data and analytics space, I would say, like BARC is doing as well. And so I would like to talk a little bit more about what role does data and analytics play for ESG reporting?
A very good question. It's a universal question. What's the point of data and analytics? And I think if we see analytics as being looking back on something, maybe Peter Drucker came up with the right saying a number of decades ago when he said that what gets measured gets done. So in our book, I think we would say if we're going to measure it, maybe it's too late. Maybe it's what gets done gets measured, and doing the right thing is focused through the measurement. So we see analytics and operations being totally intertwined and dependent on each other. One leads to the other, and it leads back to the first.
Very interesting, but where things get measured, there is a lot of data involved, of course. And where data is involved, there are a lot of challenges. And when we are looking at BARC, at our ESG topical survey we did in the last couple of years, we published 2 surveys. Data management was always a major challenge. So do you see any different challenges than data management, or is data management just the main challenge also for you?
Well, for me, when you really think about it, I mean, data is everything. It represents everything. And I think a lot of us can view data as being some abstract conceptual thing, whereas in fact it is everything. It represents our universe. It represents, everything that we do right down to our business. And if we are going to talk about our business, or if we're going to talk about our experience or what we do, we need to be able to convert that into a data picture. So data is the ingredient. It's everywhere. It reflects and drives, everything we do, before, after, and during the activity. So I suppose it's good to be in the world of data analytics, but really that means we're in the world of business and people and activity. And understanding that is more important to me than understanding the data. The data is just the ingredient.
This also means there are coming a lot of opportunities with it, I would think. Is this the case for you as well? Do you see any major opportunities coming with data-based ESG reporting?
Absolutely. I mean, ESG, when you look at what it means, I used to think that S stood for sustainability. I now know that S stands for social, but sustainability is the overriding aim or objective of ESG, which is not necessarily aligned with traditional drivers of shareholder value or measurements of shareholder value. So we talk about, financial and ESG things operating in harmony. Of course, there's an opportunity for us to improve the future of the world for our future generations. That's the point. But can we make it a win-win-win? We talk about win for the company, win for the employees and the customer, and also win for the community. We need to get all of those aligned. Otherwise, we have a problem.
Yes, and one more thing I would like to add is it's maybe also a win for suppliers and for the capital market and also for every stakeholder in and outside the company.
Well, that's true. And an investment friend of mine back in the days in London discussing this made an interesting comment, which I never forgot. And that is that people want to invest in ESG performing companies, but at the end of the day, they need to make money too. So, so this moral and financial measures or drivers of our behavior need to line up.
Yes. Just before the interview, we had a look at some ESG scores, right? And that's actually the proof for ESG relevance for the capital market. But it's way more than just ESG scores. It's about meaningful and impactful ESG and sustainability initiatives, of course, and how you could feed them with data and a company can profit from ESG reporting.
Well, I think ESG instead of has moved from being an interesting measure for investors to the reality for everybody. And the regulator is maybe not forcing this, it's encouraging it. And it has come up with a model for ESG, which it is mandating to those companies. I think our challenge and the challenge of our customers and clients is to understand the relevance, as you say, of that to their business. So in my opinion, that needs to start with the specifics of that business, the unique specifics of everybody's business. Maybe not start with the measures, but start with their business and their operations and take that to the measures as opposed to the other way around. And I think our challenge and our methodology, our framework, our approach is to do exactly that with our customers. Understand what it means, what good looks like for our customers, and then bringing that to the measures to see are the same good things applicable to our customers.
Okay, great insights from you, John. Before we will talk about your approach from Capventis, I would like to talk a little bit about the software market we are seeing right now. It's very complex, very dynamic, with a lot of vendors in there. So what's your perspective on the software market? And how do you think software can help in general with this complex requirements coming from the EU with over 1,000 measurements that can be made?
Another great question. And I think, first of all, we need to put software into the place it needs to be, which is it's an enabler. People ask me, what's the value of technology? I will say it helps, and its job is to enable and help the needs of the business. At the moment, as you say, it's a young market. with respect to ESG, we're just getting going. So there are some players who are ahead of the game, or who are ahead of the game in parts of the problem, not the whole problem. I don't think anybody is there yet. In your report, your very insightful report, where you surveyed the market and surveyed the players, you are identifying different parts or different phases of the ESG process, if you like, end to end. And it seems to me that each process has different players supporting it and no one player enabling the whole thing. So I think there's a need for, understanding the generic needs, the mass needs, and then to adjust those specifically for the needs of our customers, and then to bring the technology solution to that.
You just mentioned a very good point, that you think there are not too much end-to-end solutions on the market right now. So how are you from Capventis trying to solve this issue?
The thing is, the biggest challenge, in my opinion, is the capture of the data in the first place. So the raw data, you talk about data at source. That's actually quite unique to the operational environment of the business concerned. So there is no one size or one fits all when it comes to that end of the picture. So just before going back to that, the rest of it is relatively straightforward with the right technologies. We live in that market, we live in that space for, as I said, quarter of a century. We're well used to putting together analytical solutions, taking data from somewhere in order to give the insights required, and then taking that back to decision making. But the real challenge is at the operational source itself, and understanding what is needed from a business perspective, and then how to incorporate that into the legacy or the current or the existing technology in play at that operational source. That's the tricky bit.
And as we just said, the market is dynamic, but also regulators are evolving, reporting standards are evolving, not only in the EU, but worldwide. So where do you think could we stand in 5 years when we are looking at the ESG reporting market from a data and analytics perspective?
Well, as you point out in your report, there are different standards from different regions, from the United States, from Asia, from Europe. I really don't see a big issue with that. I think any good solution will incorporate all of the standards. And I know there's a global drive between those regulators to harmonize or consolidate those standards into something more unified. I think, again, the problems, the business challenge cuts right across every industry and cuts right across every geographic boundary. So there's no difference there. I think the measures themselves would evolve. I think how we reported them will evolve. I think another challenge is not just getting the measures and the scores one year, but how you take that to the next year and the year after and the year after. I think also there's a challenge in, looking at all of those measures at the center. Who is going to create the measures and how will they be taken to the centre, the regulator centre in Brussels or wherever it is, and what will they do with those measures? Finally, I think we need to ask what's the ultimate objective of ESG. Reporting is just a start, I think. I think its inevitable conclusion is to take that reporting into some sort of definition of standards and targets and actual performance indicators against those measures. And then maybe beyond that is the consequences of either meeting them, a positive, or not meeting them, a negative, and what the regulator intends to do about that.
Very interesting insights again. Regarding your solution approach, you're also partnering with Qlik. So could you probably share some insights on how this is helping you with your approach, tackling ESG reporting and all the challenges, but also opportunities coming with it?
Well, we started partnering with Qlik. It used to be called Qlik Tech, with the technology Qlik View in 2007. That's a long time ago. Qlik itself is celebrating, I think, 30 years. Last year it was celebrating 30-year anniversary, and yet it remains the most powerful analytical tool that we have come across in the market, which is why we partner with Qlik. We're able to, with a technology like that, kind of push to one side traditional difficulties in getting at data, in bringing it together, in harmonizing that data in a way which is visually appealing and visually informative. So all of those things are very good, and we're delighted to be collaborating with Qlik on their ESG initiative in partnership with them and in support of BARC to take that kind of technology to the market. Now we need, and on my previous point about the real challenge is getting at the source of the data, that needs technical solutions which are next generation, which are new solutions. And I'm delighted to be able to say that this is something we are developing in the background in our research and development facility in Anglesey in Wales, which is to be able to work with companies to harmonize and deliver those kind of solutions end to end.
Talking about technical solutions and your research and development department, could you probably share some more insights on that? You're offering consulting services, but you also have this technology solution development ongoing and developing new solutions also for ESG reporting in the future.
Yes. I mean, well, what we found, the reason we set up this R&D facility in the first place is that as a consulting services company, while everybody has what I call point solutions or applications throughout their businesses, the difficulty is in bringing them together in some sort of way. That's the integration challenge that people talk about. So we felt the need 7-8 years ago to be able to address any need to get data from anywhere and be able to bring that together in some sort of a coherent, cohesive, universal way. We've taken that need to look at, fundamentals of what do we mean by not just one measure, but all measures. Not just the measure, but what is it measuring? And how does that connect to the thing it's measuring and the impact of that beyond? Again, something that's very clearly an agenda or very clearly a need in ESG reporting because everything's connected. Everything has a sustainability impact. And our role is to be able to work with our customers and clients to make a design which brings that all together and deliver a technology solution that is practical, pragmatic, and actually works.
You just talked about point solutions as well. Where do you see the major advantages when it comes to an end-to-end solution covering everything around ESG reporting, whether it is there right now or it will be there in the future, when you are comparing these kind of solutions to the point solutions you just mentioned?
Well, the difficulty with point solutions is that we're duplicating the same data in multiple places. By definition, point solutions are different, and therefore to tie them together is a difficulty because you need to, in some way, transform the data from one point to the other point. Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to do that in the first place, but rather have something which is more unified and cohesive and end-to-end with less duplication of data? That's our ambition.
Okay, good to know. We just talked about where the software market will be heading and what your future approach will be. So with this interview coming to an end, would you want to share some final recommendations with your audience?
If we've learned anything in 25 years of working with our customers, we've learned a hell of a lot from our customers, and hopefully we've been able to bring that back to our customers. We've learned one thing, and that is that it must start with the business, the people in the business, and it must start with a good design. And we believe that the world is missing that, good design. with point solutions, we rush to the solution. It's available, take it, versus getting the design right first and understanding all of those perspectives. And then that design must be owned by the business and by the people in the business, because they are the people who will implement that design, not anybody else. So that's the one fundamental recommendation I would bring to our customers, that we are looking to enter into relationships with our customers where we can help them to create and own that design.
Great insights, John. Great discussion. It was a pleasure to have you here, and I'm sure we will talk soon again.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been enjoyable talking to you. Thank you, Chris.